Welcome to the Brent and Bill show. We've got a lot of our people. I'm very proud to say that our panelists, Jimmy Davis from Chicago, Clark Lamping from Clark County, Las Vegas area, and our Captain Mike D are teaching at I believe it's called the Fire in the Sky Conference, and it's sponsored by the Firefighter Air Coalition, I believe. So they're not here. And of course, because of the gravity of the day, we've got a lot of our people tied up. So we are going to look at 9/11/01, but in a different perspective, how it has affected the fire service, how it's affected building construction, building codes, how it's affected our own departments. So, Brent, you want to tell a little? They all know me. I'm the oldest guy in the room. I'm a captain with Miami-Dade Fire Department, and we're looking at about 4 hurricanes out there in the tropical Atlantic, and one of them's bound to get us. What I hate about those hurricane force winds is, when they get up around 100 miles an hour, they blow my hairpiece off, and I try to keep the damn thing on, and it's okay if it completely blows off, but when it's like hanging and then it looks like a comb over is when I don't like that. So, Brent, first of all, I gotta tell a little bit about yourself, and then you're wearing a sweatshirt, so I'm a little bit envious of this. You want to tell a little bit about yourself and where you're going this afternoon, Brent?
Yeah, I'm acting district chief for Toronto Fire, so 30 years on now, and I've been 18 years on our dedicated high-rise unit. We have 2 dedicated high-rise units. They're staffed 24 hours a day with 4 firefighters, and our job is to troubleshoot these high-rise buildings and get the tactics into play logistically, as well as when we do have to perform something like the floor below, opposing tip, wall breaching, resin distributor, exterior cladding. We're the ones that have to come up with a solution for that. So that equipment is on our truck. Those tactics are there. Our firefighters are trained for that. And, if that rainy day comes, we have to be prepared.
Want to give a shout out to our friends at Key Hose. That's keyhose.com. I say this on every one of our meetings here is take the key challenge, which is try to kink it. And they have a variety of grades and styles of hose. Some of them handle differently in terms of kink resistance and rigidity. There's a combat ready, and then there's a combat sniper for, I think the happy flow is around 160 gallons a minute. So in the combat ready, if it's an 1 3/4, which it's never really 1 3/4, guys and girls. It's always going to be something a little bit different. Except for the True ID. That I understand pretty much maintains its diameter. So thank you, Key. Thank you. Brent, before we get into the events of 23 years ago, I'm intrigued. First of all, what is the temperature like in Toronto? Now, it's the heat index here is in Miami is about 104. So how is it there in Toronto?
So it would be similar to what it is in Chicago right now. So it's nice. It's just enough for a suit jacket, but it doesn't have the humidity, not even close to what you're experiencing.
Your ears were burning yesterday. You played such a great host and gave such a warm welcome to a good friend of mine, John Smith. He's a captain on our job, and his wife, and really rolled out the red carpet. So we were talking about you yesterday, and I said, there's nobody that I know that knows more styles of buildings, designs of buildings, building codes in more places in the world than Brent Brooks. So I just posed a question to you before we got online. Brent, I bet you've been to Kuala Lumpur. And what did you tell me?
I definitely have. And, they have the world's second tallest building, Merdeka 118. I've toured it prior to its construction. They have the highest glass floor in the world. I've been on it. I've looked at their stairwells. I see how firefighters are going to stretch 4-inch hose. It's actually prepared for a catastrophic failure. They can stretch 4-inch hose up their well. And I've been to the Petronas buildings. I toured it with the CEO. Just that in-depth look. And it's because of my passion. They, allow me inside these buildings and give me these tours. And I'm asking lots of questions. And there is a disconnect between, firefighters and the building designers, engineers, and architects, our fire prevention. And really, I'm just trying to connect the dots so we all have a better understanding and stay ahead of, the trends. So today, believe it or not, another reason why I have the suit is for, the September 11th, but also I'll be in Toronto at a architectural meeting on tomorrow's timber frame construction. So Toronto has timber frame construction. The U.S. is going to build the world's tallest timber frame constructed building again. But I'm going to speak to designers and engineers and architects today that are helping with those designs, understanding how that building is going to be built. But also, I want to stay ahead of the game and be proactive. And I'm already going to know how to fight a fire in that building prior to it being built. And I can prepare our tactics before they even break ground. So today's a busy day for me. I'm excited. Not excited to wear a suit, but excited.
Yeah. And you said you got a seersucker suit on?
I do.
Right with so you look like Colonel Sanders if you got
I do.
Red bow tie.
I need the bow tie.
Okay, very good. Hey, you just intrigued me. Planning for a catastrophic failure of a standpipe in Kuala Lumpur. You would do a well stretch with 4-inch hose. At what intervals would you secure the hose? In other words, support it behind a coupling.
So I just did 2.5 inch, so 65 mil, 46-story exterior stretch. And I was talking to Dennis Laguerre, and we're talking about the failure rates of couplings, and we're talking about, this 4-to-1, 8-to-1 safety factor, which is good. So we've come up with the conclusion that you should tie it off every 4th coupling. However, that works for the hose and the coupling. But when I looked at railing, balcony design, and tie-off design, some of that stuff's only rated for 200 pounds. So the hose stuff and the coupling stuff, we haven't figured it out, but your building is going to dictate where those couplings should be tied off. So for that 46-story improvised exterior standpipe, we actually had to tie it off at every single coupling because the weight of the anchor points didn't allow us to do it every 4th coupling.
I've never really thought about that. Brent, my department teaches our recruits to hand stretch they call it a portable standpipe. It's 3-inch hose with a 2.5 to 2.5 to 2.5 inch gated Y. And they bring it up to the railing on the 3rd floor of the training tower, and they lash it off with webbing. Now, I've been very outspoken. I'm against that because they're going to connect to a railing one of these days, and that entire railing on that entire face of that building is coming down, and it's going to hurt somebody's feelings. And it's something I never really considered. That it's not just the strength of the couplings, but it's also the strength of where you anchor, which may have an influence on how at what intervals you support, because one anchor point is not going to be able to bear the weight of the entire stretch, even though the uppermost suspended coupling may be able to do it. And I think theoretically it's like 400 feet.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, 400 feet.
Which is incredible. But
I just talked to Daryl or Dennis Laguerre 2 days ago, and the guy is He's brilliant. He's
Yes.
brilliant. He has got some ideas about correcting some of the downsides of hose that maybe is too flexible because of its inherent kink resistance. So, and it's brilliant. I don't want to elaborate on it, but it is, and two people that you've got to come see and to listen to, Brent Brooks and Dennis Laguerre. And arguably, Dennis is one of the foremost authorities on fire streams, hydraulics, nozzles, appliances. And you're right up there too, Mr. Brent. And I will tell you that we, Miami-Dade Fire Department, will equip every engine company with a basement pipe, 2.5-inch pipe, without a shutoff. We'll add the shutoff, and a good old-fashioned Bresnan distributor. And I was looking at some of your comments. Water goes down, it goes out, but the water goes up. And Dave Fornell did a really good job explaining that for a basement, lower it all the way down, then bring it back up, lower it all the way down. And now with lightweight construction, we don't want you going making a foray several feet away from a door on a floor that is being assaulted by fire in with engineered I-joists or parallel core trusses. But there's a place for the Bresnan distributor, as there are the other specialty nozzles, which you have been very explicit on. And as Dave Fornell says, maybe you'll only use it once in your career, but when you need it, you need it. So that's what I'm working on right now. As far as I write a lot of training bulletins. You know, when you can't do it anymore, then you teach. So I write a lot of training bulletins. All right, let's get to the subject at hand. Go ahead, Brent.
I'm gonna send you a video now you're talking about the Bresnan that we call the rotary distributor. So I was in Pensacola, and I had the 2.5 flowing the Bresnan, and I was actually putting it straight up above my head while flowing, and I got a good 12 feet above my head before it just gradually fell to the ground. And then I took it and dragged it and put it underneath a vehicle. So everyone was kind of amazed, like this guy's flowing 500 GPMs, 12 feet above his head, letting it fall, driving it across underneath the vehicle. He's doing it effortlessly by himself. So
Brent, the hose was that rigid?
Yes.
The hose was that rigid?
Yeah.
You could hold it up over your head?
500 GPMs, yes. It's about, and I'm going to send you it, and you're going to be blown away. And I do it several times. Obviously, I got wet. So did everybody else around me. But the science of taking nozzle reaction from 100 pounds to 0 is the game changer in water delivery. So we've added ergonomics into hose movements. The future looks bright for getting big water, and that transfers into our timber frame constructed high-rise buildings, the new construction, the way of the future. Smaller firefighters, we know where the future of firefighting is going. So we have to be able to still flow big water and use reach of stream.
Yep. On 9/11/01, we all remember where we were, unless we're younger than 23 years old. We all remember where we were, how we felt, and what we were doing. And I remember I was upset. Called my dad, who had just retired from the Chicago Fire Department. And he says, Bill, give it 2 to 3 generations, and this day will be largely forgotten. And I'm afraid we're we're heading in that direction. And Peter Procchio, who is the guy behind the curtain, brought up a good point. We're not your average citizen. We are firefighters. So it's always going to be a very, very special day for us. So I don't see us forgetting it. And also, we have made improvements, hopefully, and you can opine on this, to building construction and design. I know definitely our interoperability is better with other agencies. We got away from the radio codes and we're using clear text, except for 2 signals that I'll talk about in a minute. But when I think about as each generation replaces the previous, is 9/11/01 going to be like Pearl Harbor Day? And to me, it looks like it's heading in that direction. I'm going to pose a question, and I feel very strongly about this. To our viewers, do any of you that have any grip of reality feel that we are safer and more secure than we did 23 years ago? Maybe that's just a rhetorical question you can't answer back. We are at war. We are still at war. We have our enemies, and our enemies are at war with us. We might not think that we're at war with them, but they are at war with us. We are vulnerable. And it's not just going to be New York City. It's not just a New York City problem. Nope. Yeah, you're right about that, mister. You're right about that. So, but let's take what we can learn. And Brent, I know that you've looked into construction, the timber, and the lightweight, and we know that they always use this comparison, Brent, and it's a crappy comparison. The B-25 bomber flies into the Empire State Building. Okay, that's a little different than a 767. Okay, but the point of the comparison is that the weight per square foot of the Empire State Building, that building was built like Mount Rushmore. I mean, it was just overbuilt. And when you think about, you had engines that from the airplane go down the elevator shaft, start fires down in the basement and the sub-basement. They were back and operating in about a month. Now, that just is not going to happen today. But Brent, how has the lessons from 9/11/01 affected building construction in your view, if at all, and your operations on the Toronto Fire Department?
Well, I don't think it has globally, because we're building super tall buildings, and I have no problem with architects, and I have no problem with building super tall buildings. It's my job, as a researcher, to look at these buildings, come up with firefighting tactics for these buildings. But what we're seeing is your tall, narrow buildings. They have more sway. They take into the other buildings around them. As far as I have, multiple buildings around me that's protecting me from wind, so I can use less rebar, or I can use less concrete. So they're not as robust as yesterday's buildings. And the single staircase debate. If I get rid of the more than one staircases, go to single staircases, I can put more people, build my buildings taller. And that's frustrating because, I come up with tactics for today's buildings, but tomorrow's buildings, the big question mark is on them, because the pushes for single staircases. Like, have we learned from Grenville? Have we learned from September 11th? Have we learned from those fires where 179, 189 died in Brazil in 1974? We got to remember those fires, and we got to bring them forward, not forgetting about them, not forgetting about the people, the firefighters, but the design of that building and our tactics. 1960, 70 tactics in firefighting. Well, it's now 2024. We're always behind the 8 ball a little bit when it comes to firefighting, because the buildings get built and then we have to troubleshoot them after they're built. Same with the EV car fires. The cart before the horse type scenario. That's us as firefighters. We're always playing catch up. So I got the suit on. I'm going out to try to stop that, or not stop that, just be prepared for those future buildings. It's not an easy task.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that at the time of the catastrophic failure of the pressure reducing valves in Philadelphia,
Meridian Plaza.
And I think that, to quote Matt Stuckey, a retired chief from Houston, nobody had a clue of PRVs. Nobody had a clue. It's just that their luck ran out before ours did.
Yeah.
So
100%.
So it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but at that time, there was no fire service representation, no firefighters on the NFPA 14 committee.
Right. And that's where you get that pre and post NFPA 14, the 65 PSI, the 100 PSI, just because of that fire. And I believe, I could, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the quickest code change. That fire happened in 91. The code changed in 1993. That's the quickest I've ever seen a code change. And it was because of that fire. And we used that fire as example. They were stretching 5-inch hose upstairs. They were using another high-rise building to fight another high-rise building. They were doing tactics that we dream above today. They're doing those tactics back in 1991. So it shows, like, firefighters are firefighters. We're going to do what we can. We're going to go, way beyond and above what we train for when it comes to problem solving. So, those firefighters, I commend them, because back in 1991, they're doing what we want to do today in 2024, and we're still struggling with it.
Well, I do believe that our brother Kyle Smith from Cobb County sits on that NFPA 14 committee. Could be wrong.
I gotta tell you, yeah,
he's looking out for us.
He is. Yeah.
We couldn't have a better advocate for our cause than Kyle Smith. And we're very lucky that he takes his time and devotes it to being on that committee.
And he can present that material too, in a way that I can understand it. And that's what I like about Kyle Smith is he presents it so I understand it, so I can go and share that.
It's he's one of the nicest guys and the smartest guys. I know a few guys like that they're the smartest guys in the room. When they walk in the room, they're the smartest guys, but they're so humble. Yeah. They're so humble. Some of the smartest guys and the most capable are humble and approachable guys. If you go to FDIC this next year, maybe it's the first time you've ever been there, don't be afraid. Don't hesitate to approach people that are renowned in the fire service, because we're all into this together. And it's really about a lot of those authorities we're old timers. Okay. And I can see the rising stars, guys that are coming up. And Anthony Rowett is one of them. And at the risk of forgetting, Nick Papa is another one. The future of the fire service, I think, Brent, is in is in really good hands. And I also say that about our recruits. I hear a lot of people on the fire department comment about, well, the younger generation this, the younger generation that. I'm not seeing it in our recruit class at Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Department. I'm not seeing it. What I'm seeing are fine young men and women, and yes, the women are held to the same standard as the young men. And in the South Florida tropical heat, for them to be working in their protective clothing for hours, of course, they take breaks. We all understand that. But it is not comfortable, and it's not comfortable. But those people are better people, better firefighters than I was at that age. I was a smart ass when I was 23, 24 years old. I'm still a smart ass. I'm just an old smart ass.
I was about to say it.
Yeah.
But you know what I like about these new recruits is they're asking the question why. And when I was in recruit school, I would ask the question why, and they would tell me, because I said so, kid. And you just did it because you said so. But now they're asking the question why. And don't you dare, as an instructor, say, because I said so. Give them the reason why. Tell them why you're doing it, the science behind it. And if you don't know the answer, you're on the same page. You're going to fires with these recruits. Say, you know what? I don't know that answer, but I do know the inner circle. I'm going to ask Dan Seguir. I'm going to ask Kyle Smith what those answers are, and put yourself in their shoes. Please, please, please.
For y'all, those of you that aspire to be instructors, and one of the most valuable instructors is the senior firefighter. And that's all relative. You know, you got 2 years on the job, and this guy just got on the apparatus floor out of the academy. Well, you have a lot to bring to the table. And Gordon Graham does a pretty good examination and explanation of how valuable the senior firefighter is. And he's actually a huge influence. I know I was influenced by that. But those that aspire to be instructors, don't ever be afraid to say, I don't know. When you're asked a question and you don't know, you don't know. And then you write it down and you say, I'll get back to you. You got a great point. I'm going to write this down and I'll get back with you. And then usually, if I have the next day with the recruits, okay, I looked it up. And because they're a sharp bunch. So we're in good hands. The timber construction. When we tend to think of this, I realize they're primarily a cross-laminated timber. And basically that's like a plywood on steroids. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can we compare that at all to old mill-constructed buildings in terms of the size of the wood structural elements?
And that's what I'm going to try and find today. Like I've been in London, England, and I was talking to engineers over there, and they have 7-ply floor, they have 3-ply wall. It's interconnected. They can build this stuff off site in a controlled area. They can bring it and build these buildings faster. They can still have, concrete core, shafts and all this other stuff. But from the research that I've seen, that these buildings are super strong. They are super safe. What the weaknesses of the building is of the long-term effect of water leaks on that ply. They've taken floor vibration, they've taken wind sway, seismic type of stuff, and they've kind of proven to me how safe these new buildings are going to be. Just the longevity of water damage is the big question mark right now.
Okay, because I understand that. One of their selling points is there's no concealed spaces. Is that correct?
Not like not on the structural frame, but when there's percentages on how much they're allowed to cover and not cover. It's that 60%. Some buildings are, when they put something in front of that. Now we have the same, fully sprinklered isn't fully sprinklered. You're going to have those voids, but we do have the tactics today to deal with those hidden voids. But if you leave that too long, we know what's going to happen. It's going to be a problem. So
well, I know your department has the tools and the tactics because you have the specialized nozzles.
I have no problem wetting a hidden void. And I'm saying wetting, not drowning, not submerging, wetting, stopping that smoke and fire spread. Because once you recognize the signs that fire is 160 feet away from you or traveling in a hidden void, it's too late. So I have no problem. And hey, I think it's in the wall. Give it a squirt, right? Give it a squirt.
And if you see steam, good thing. If you don't see any steam, no harm, no foul.
Because what we're doing on these hidden voids, you got this long hidden void, and you open it up with a flat-headed axe. You got a hole. Hey, we got nothing in there. Then you go down range a bit, and you put another hole. Well, you just gave a hidden void an entrance and an exit, and now you have a flow path within that void. And look out, because things can happen quick. So you can still do your entrance and exit, but be there with a specialty nozzle to be able to send water in there immediately. Because a flow path, that trench, that trench path, that flow, you can't recover if you're not prepared there with a nozzle.
Brent, I'm the project manager for the Bresnan distributors. What you just told me is priceless. What you just told me was priceless. And there's differing opinions on cutting holes in roofs. But clearly, when you make an opening in a void, you're creating a flow path. And if you are pulling a ceiling, it could be like opening up the damper of a wood-burning stove.
Yeah.
Now, why don't we keep the void closed and take a nozzle that's big around, that rotates, and stick that in the hole and operate that. And that's what you're doing in Toronto. That's what we aim to do. And what you just said will be in my training bulletin. So I need to plagiarize some more information from you. We're at a halfway mark. Kudos to Key Hose. That's keyhose.com. Because when we're making these holes and putting specialty nozzles in there, we want to have a high quality hose. We can't afford to have a hose fail. We talk about well stretches. We can't afford to blow a length of hose, and just even one length. When we're talking about multi-story buildings, you got to have something that is really, really reliable. That's why I always say don't go cheap on hose, because you want to screw up a above ground fire attack on an upper floor of a business or at a residence. Yeah, just blow a section of hose and see how screwed up you're going to be. And we can't afford that. So take a look at Key. Highly reliable, excellent heat and abrasion resistance and kink resistance. So see if there's something else I was going to ask you about.
Actually, while you're on the topic of hose, if you do have a break or a catastrophic failure of a hose, and just envision that happening downrange, and then you have to reset, you have to shut that line down. Your crews have to back out. We know how fast smoke spreads. We know how fast fire spreads. You just really initiated the fire attack right from square one again, because you have to back out. You have to restretch. The problems that come along with that. But you need good hose is the end of the story. That is our lifeline. That is something that we're taking interior to make a hole to get people out of that building. It's our water delivery system. It is the meat and potatoes of the fire service is fire hose.
Yes, and as you mentioned, many times when we access a fire, closed up commercial occupancy at night, a fire in a void, we intentionally are going to make the fire worse before things get better. And if we have a failure of a hose line, at that point, we just created a huge problem for ourselves. So
that's a fear.
Yeah, excellent point. Another thing I was thinking about is the all of the getting back to 9/11. Brent, did it carry over into Canada? After 9/11/01, we took ICS 100, ICS 200, 300, 400, and sometimes the instructors that were coming in were from the Forest Service. They were not structural firefighters, but they were their attempt was, and the intent of I'm going to say the federal government in the United States was to literally get us on the same page. Now, I do think that we are better at interoperability now with other agencies than we have been in the past. We don't have wildfires here. We have hurricanes. Okay, and it's going to require a multi-agency response, and that requires Coast Guard and people you wouldn't even think. And our emergency operations center, as you walk around, it's a hardened building. Water department, sewer department, Florida Power and Light. Everybody's got a seat literally at this table with the incident command system and the emergency operations center. We didn't have that before 9/11/01. So I guess we did learn a hard lesson about that. And in that respect, I know that we're better prepared. I'm speaking now of Miami-Dade Fire Department. We're better prepared for that, for operating with multiple agencies. There's no question about it. So Brent, my question to you is, in Canada, did you go through, was your training altered? Was it enhanced? Did it change in any way, shape, or form as a result of 9/11/01?
It definitely has, and it's called the World Trade Center, and it's been a new building's been built. It's called the World Trade Center as well. You have people from all over the world inside that building, so it happened on U.S. soil. It greatly impacted the U.S., but globally, my wife was actually there during September 11th, and she fled to Long Island, and then she fled to North Carolina, and it was 2 weeks before we could get her back in the country. And and even today I'm still studying the effects of that. But we used to evacuate a building, and we put people at muster points, and now we evacuate and disperse because of fallen debris, because of little things like that we take and we overanalyze it to make the future safer for us. So evacuating to muster points on high rises is a thing of the past. We evacuate we evacuate and disperse. And we say in my world, you walk 10 minutes. You walk 10 minutes, you have your smartphone, we can communicate, you can, check in, check out. Our accountability now is with our smartphone. So evacuate, get away from the building, let the emergency responders work.
And this involves our 911 dispatch call takers in the fire alarm office. Is anybody that was old enough to remember 9/11/01 and saw what happened? is not going to be comfortable heeding the advice to protect or shelter in place. They're not going to be comfortable doing it. And Danny Sheridan, in his words, he says, no matter how hard we try, whatever we do, people are going to self-evacuate, which makes it more difficult for us, directing people to the proper stairway. And at 9/11, there were people that were advised to stay in place, and under normal conditions they would be safer, and still you're safer in most cases. Now, you're not safer with an airplane crashing into your building. You're not safer when the fire is scaling the outside of the building. You're not safer. That doesn't, we've learned that from Grenfell. You know, it still pisses me off that they put fire officers from the London Fire Brigade on trial. What about the friggin' architect? What about the code official that approved a building loaded with people with one friggin' stairwell? How about those people? How about bring them on trial? Hold them accountable. So you mentioned the single stairway, man. And it's so tempting. You know, this building on Park Avenue in New York City, right. It's got a tiny footprint. You can't miss it. It looks like a pencil. And there's no way, even though you have two stairwells, how remote can they be? So, and I don't know, they understand, I understand, Brent, that they actually have some type of counterweight device up in the top of that building to keep it from swaying.
Yeah, they call them dampers. You know, some are on train tracks, some are pendulums. You know, the CN Tower in Toronto has one. I'm kind of fantasized by them. Some of them are backup for fire suppression. So if you can't pump from the ground floor, you can actually get water from those dampers. Every building's different. Every building's unique in its design when they use dampers. But there's speakers that just talk about dampers, and you know, I'm a little bit of a nerd that way, and that's why I'm going to that meeting today. I want to hear this stuff. I want to understand it. I want to, even some buildings that are class 1 have gone to class 3 to allow for rigidity inside that building. So it's kind of neat, you know, learning about this stuff. Why did you put class 3 in this building when everyone else has gone class 1? Why? Because I needed a building to be more stiffer. So it's really cool stuff. Every building is unique in design, and the dampers and the stairwells and the classes of systems all revolve around that. Is that my book? I was just going to look up Park Avenue while you're talking about it, but these are the world's tallest buildings, 118 of the world's tallest buildings, and I got all the facts and stats on them. I've been to 36 of those buildings. New York has 8 of the super talls. I've been to all 8 of them. Just trying to understand, you know, the future of firefighting in them. So that's why we need to work with these engineers, designers, and architects, is feed us the information and let us be more prepared for tomorrow's high-rise building fires. Oh, and when you were talking about Grenfell, sorry, you know me, I'll keep talking. So just say, Brooksy, you know, be quiet. But when we look at Grenfell, we look at September 11th, we look at evacuations in these buildings. What we have to analyze more is the timings of it. We know how fast Grenfell spread from the 4th floor, you know, to the roof in the 17 minutes, but how fast can firefighters deploy? So at Grenfell, all these specialty tactics that I talk about wouldn't have worked, because I know it takes me 12 minutes to deploy them. It took 17 minutes for that fire to spread. That recent fire in Spain, right? It was a hybrid building, it had a podium with 2 towers on it. And we're finding that after the 18-minute mark, you're going to be unsuccessful. The Twin Park fire in New York City, look at the timings on how fast smoke spread, on how fast fire spread, on the fire department deployment. some of these fires are lost before the fire department even turn out of the station. So we like, that's what I've been doing now, is looking at vertical response time, deployment time, because now in our city, we can predict and forecast the next 12 minutes because we know what our response times are. So we can take the building design, our fire and smoke spread, our deployment of the fire department, and we can tell you, call it an algorithm, prior to even dispatching from the hall, whether or not we'll be successful. So this is why we have to keep this research and keep studying and remembering our past fires in order to be successful in the future. So don't forget these past fires and these past events.
Has the fire service and public fire safety educators, have we misled the public into a sense? If they're on a 40th floor and the elevators go out in this building, the fire department is going to get up there in a timely fashion and put their fire out. When Vincent Dunn, who's quite an authority, I think his estimate is the very best you're can count on is going to be 1 minute per floor.
Yep.
And now, getting back to our mutual friend, John Smithies, you guys have tell us about your hand truck that you have for taking equipment up the stairs.
So it's just a portable stair climber, and there are better ones out there. Again, we designed that truck back, I think the original high-rise truck was back in 1988. That was the original fully staffed 24 hours a day high-rise truck. And then 2006, we added the second generation of high-rise truck. 2015, we developed the third. I think that went into service in 2018, but that's when we started adding battery-powered tool, and we added lose. Oh, there we are. We're back. This battery-powered stair climber can lift 350 pounds. Now that I'm looking at people with disabilities, some people can't evacuate. We can't take them from their wheelchair. If they do, they'll actually pass away. So now we're looking at stair climbers for people with disabilities to get them out of buildings. We have another stair climber for RIT. It can lift 500 pounds. So we use that for RIT below grade. If a firefighter goes down, and actually you sent me a video of you on that battery-powered climber. That is for a downed firefighter. So our PPE is becoming more restrictive. It's keeping heat in, and we have to do that for cancer prevention. But we have to use robotics. We have to use stair climbers for our future buildings. Firefighting is changing. We have to change with our building stock. So we got our foot in the door. We do have these stair climbers, but the next generation, the fourth generation of high-rise truck in Toronto, if I get my way, it's going to be spectacular. It's going to set, the trend for firefighting globally, because we need the help of mechanics and robotics and stair climbers in order to be successful in these super tall buildings. Because, you put the most fittest NHL player in our bunker gear, they're going to tire. You can recover from exhaustion, just like NHL hockey players do. Their hockey gear allows them to breathe, allows them to recover. But when you put particular protection, which we need for cancer, but now I can't recover from exhaustion and heat exhaustion in the same. So I'm not going to be good no matter how physically fit I am when I get up there. So we need help. And that help is out there. They make the products. We just need to test it, do the R&D today for tomorrow's buildings. So the future looks bright if we have open-minded people that can help us progress the fire service.
And the sprinklers are a double-edged sword. We have a lot of elderly congregate living facilities that are high-rise. And somebody leaves something on the stove, and one sprinkler head goes off. And that water finds its way out into the hallway, into the electric meter room, into the bus ducts, down the bus ducts to the ground floor and blows out the main electrical panels and shorts out one interlock, and you're screwed. And then where are we going to be? We are going to be there all night long with stair chairs evacuating elderly people down the stairs. I don't know where we're going to get all these stair chairs, but it is a nightmare. It happens every so often, but it's just recently, what city? Just in Florida, it was a huge problem. You got old people and you don't have elevators, you got a big problem. And you lose air conditioning in South Florida, man, you're in trouble.
So each one of these Toronto high-rise units has 10 patient evacuation options, and they are stair chairs. And then each of our paramedic units, the paramedic unit is separate from the fire service. They also have a stair chair. Retirement homes have patient evacuation chairs. So this is a group effort. And if we can, like you said earlier, if we can combine all these groups, hey, let's come up with a battle plan for your building. So yes, I know, I get it has sprinklers, and I get it has this, that, and the other thing. But if you have to do an evacuation of a residential home, no fire department in the world that has the staffing to fight a fire, prevent smoke spread, and evacuate people. So we need your help. So before our arrival, what are you doing, or how can you help us? Because when we arrive, we have a lot of things to do. So this is where we got to get together and come up with a battle plan for each building, not a pre-plan. A pre-plan tells us, where your FDC connections are, where your gas shutoff is, where your roof hatches is. But a battle plan tells us how all the agencies can work together to, shelter people in place, evacuate people, attack the fire, contain smoke, clear smoke. That's what we need. And I know Jack Murphy and his gang, they have a battle plan for the fire wardens. Now we need to take that battle plan, add it to the fire department's battle plan, and things are going to work better. We need help. And I think that's the only way to do it. And firefighters, if I tell you, hey, we're going to go out and do a pre-plan, they're like, oh, you're killing me. If I tell them, hey, we're going to go out and do a battle plan, let's go, start the truck.
Yeah. Yep. It's just got a catchy sound to it.
And in Singapore, was I telling you, in Singapore, they have these red L's on the base of their high-rise buildings that tell them exactly where the truck placement should be. And if they're yellow L's, that tells them exactly where the outriggers are to be dropped. So they pull up to their buildings. It's pre-planned. And some of them have pictures of the aerial device that gets parked in that location. Their battle plans, I'm telling you, are second to none. Let's use those resources and duplicate it. I'm going to duplicate it. It's just a matter of time. We have to, this World Trade Center thing, we need to involve the world in solving these problems. And it's Singapore is a fire department that are leading, and we just have to, ask help from Canada, the United States, all these different worlds, make it happen. Did I ramble? I think I probably did.
No.
So imagine if you pull up to and you have one card, because I know Jack Murphy and his crew, it's one card. It has your battle plan. It tells you your evacuation. It tells you your smoke movement. It tells you people with disabilities. It tells you your stairwell exits on one page, not a big binder here, firefighter, figure it out. It's one page. And now I can tell you which stairwells can have improvised standpipes, a closed well, a well hole stretch, or that can't. Can we do an exterior stretch? No, our railings can't support the weight of our fire hose. So now we can tell the designers, hey, your building's great, but if your sprinkler systems fail or your standpipe systems fail, how about cleats? How about anchor points? How about what they've done in Kuala Lumpur? Give us a 4-inch well to stretch 4-inch hose lines. And if we can tell them our problems, then they can put solutions into the building design for us, for them, for the community that's living within that building, and then add Singapore's battle plans, Jack Murphy's fire warden plans, Toronto's tactics, Miami-Dade's cool fire department you guys have all the toys. Man, what's the future of firefighting going to look like if we work together?
Yeah. We were going to talk about one of our toys, it's a 50, 60 ton rotating record.
That's
And
the one
I
I was
know
thinking
LA
of.
City has one, or a few. LA County, I believe Phoenix has one. We have one, and I'm really proud of this young man. We had and we're not going to discuss it today, Peter, and we that'll be for another day. Lessons learned from difficult extrications, not war stories, but lessons learned. And most of the lessons that we learn are from our mistakes. It's unfortunate, and usually in our business, you just don't embarrass yourself. You hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And but we'll talk about that. We've got any idea when Peter, man behind the curtain, when that article is going to come out about the garbage truck that pinned that lady? She almost lost her legs. Are you there?
Bill, it is out now, by the way. So you can find it on Fire Engine. It just due to the solemnity of the day, we kind of are not pushing it, but you'll see it. You'll see it up on the site tomorrow or later today.
Peter, thank you. Thanks very much. So that's the man behind the curtain.
But we can certainly talk about this. I got a 4-hour workshop pre-conference for FDIC this year. So 4 hours, and that's what I want to talk about is the timings, the specialty tactics, and most importantly, the deployment of fire department resources and equipment for high-rise firefighting. So if anyone's interested, it's April 7th, 4 hours, FDIC workshop on the science behind high-rise firefighting.
We're going to be wrapping this thing up. But what occurred on 9/11/01 was a horrible tragedy. And that tragedy is still going on. We have now surpassed the number of firefighters that were killed that day, 343, with the number that are dying of respiratory related cancers from working at ground zero. That tragedy is still going on. And it's going to be going on for a long, long time. So it's not over. Let's don't forget what happened on 9/11/01. Parents, teach your kids that there's evil out there. Not everybody is kumbaya. We've got a lot of people in this country that hate us and want to destroy our way of life. And I'm afraid they're going to strike again. And as I started with this, if you think that we are any safer, any less vulnerable, you're not in touch with reality. So as a parent, teach your kids. Nobody is comfortable watching airplanes crash into the building. I'm not comfortable. I hate to see it, but it must be seen. People jumping out of the building, knowing that jumping to their death. To Americans in the United States of America. Yeah, Pearl Harbor was bad. We were attacked. And I'm scared to death it's going to happen again. What can we do as a fire service? Well, we've talked about some of those things.
But really, when it comes down to it, things are out of control. I don't want to get into politics, current events, but we are not safer. We are not more secure than we were on 9/11/01. I want to thank Key, our friends at Key, keyhose.com, for being here with us. Brent, you are an interesting guy, man. You are, I've been a fireman for 51 years. And you know what? I just met you in the last few years. And guys and girls, that is one of the joys of this profession, is you meet people that bring you up. My old man used to tell me, Bill, don't hang around with stupid people. Hang around with people that are at least as smart as you are. Well, you know what? I know that I'm a better instructor. I know damn well I'm going to write a better training bulletin on the Breslin distributor because of Brent Brooks. So we all plagiarize each other. Let's say a prayer for those that died on 9/11/01, and how many of them are going to die because of that horrific day. God bless everybody. And thank you, Brent.
God bless.
God bless America. God bless North America. God bless Canada. We'll see you next month.
See you next month.